Hello and welcome to the Metropolitan Elites. All these things you see here, they're all banned. It's banned. All that Christmas happening in your face, it's not really happening because they banned it. They did ban it. They did.
Well,
they banned it.
Yeah. Happy Winterval, everyone.
Happy Winterval.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, we don't like Christmas. We never say Christmas anywhere.
No, it's very. It's not very fair on people who don't celebrate Christmas to celebrate Christmas. So we don't agree with it.
Yeah, because we're liberals. And you know, liberals hate Christmas, hate Christians.
I really hate the capitalism around it, don't you?
Yeah, all that capitalism, all the buying stuff. We're going to buy more stuff.
People buying each other presents, it's just an excuse to tax the poor.
Yeah, that's all they want to do. It's a stealth tax for the poor. Disgusting.
Yeah. Disgraceful behaviour.
We're overwhelmed with hatred for them.
Yeah.
I love Christmas, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. I love
mince pies.
Yeah.
Too many
Most generally food, actually.
Yeah.
Food. There's an element of family in there, but mostly food.
We're coming to the end of 2015, Kev.
We are coming to the end. It's it's going to be the new year soon, 2016, and.
Have you got any high points of the year that you want to talk about?
Well,
I think that's quite a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Obviously, the whole Jeremy Corbyn thing. I don't just mean the fact that Jeremy Corbyn's the leader or I like Jeremy Corbyn. It's just as a piece of entertainment, as a piece of media.
WTF.
The desperation of the media. Jeremy Corbyn won the highest proportion of the Labour membership support ever. The media really, really don't like that. Whatever the media is.
Yeah.
They don't seem to like it. They really don't like it.
Well, I mean, I'd have to say, the general election is obviously the big point. The Conservatives winning an unexpected majority.
That wasn't surprising.
The sheer despair that brings on.
What's happening? What's going on?
How did that happen? I thought that was kind of epitomised today in PMQs. You started with Jeremy Corbyn wishing David Cameron a happy Christmas. At which point David Cameron stood up and says, "Oh, you can't even bring yourself to say happy Christmas, not just happy holidays, season's greetings, happy Christmas everyone, I wish everyone happy Christmas." And then we had 6 questions of Jeremy Corbyn asking David Cameron about the NHS and 6 questions of David Cameron answering questions about employment and anything but the NHS.
It's just goes round and round.
It is sort of major, and we've got 5 years of this. 5 years of this crap.
That's obviously. I bet that's what Cameron is thinking.
Yeah.
He didn't. He thought he'd have someone much like himself on the other side, who played the media game of sparring battles of, and it's not happening, and it's just a man asking him questions that he doesn't want to answer.
Quite informed questions as well, actually. Here's a bit of information that has been published here. What's your comment on this? Blah 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 blah. You don't even welcome the employment figures and all that.
Yeah, you're banning Christmas.
Yeah.
So actually, that was Cameron's answer of saying ban Christmas. Actually.
Yeah. Actually, I think the Jeremy Corbyn thing is a fallout from the general election. So I think it's still the general election is still occurring. We're still in that fallout phase.
Yeah, we don't know. We really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I
think it feels kind of like things have consolidated a little bit. Jeremy Corbyn's. I think it was widely perceived in the media and the commentariat, and possibly the Labour Party and probably the Conservatives, that this was a temporary thing. Jeremy Corbyn was going to get elected leader. It was going to be a complete farce.
Yeah.
And within 6 months, they're going to be having another leadership contest.
But
I think it's kind of accepted now that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no way that Labour Party, if they did try and mount a leadership challenge, Jeremy Corbyn would win, and he would win big.
Yeah.
So I think as MPs go home for this Christmas break, hopefully they'll sort of look at that, and particularly the Labour MPs will look at this and say, well, we don't like it, but it's what we've got, so let's work with it as best we can, try and get Jeremy Corbyn to see our point of view rather than
destroying him.
This constant briefing against him and
just making stuff up and deliberately misinterpreting what he said.
So I mean that's where we're at really. But there's been some big news this week.
Yes, not very excitingly. Do you mean the France agreement?
The Paris thing, yeah.
It's not actually as good as it sounds, but supposedly, US, China, and India, they're the worst polluters. They've agreed to limiting to a 1.5 degrees increase from pre-industrial levels. That's what they've supposedly agreed to. US and Europe have supposedly accepted responsibility for the up till now increase, but the American lawyers went away and checked and there was one word wrong. And actually, they didn't say shall, they said should. Translation, won't. That's what it means.
Possibly, I wouldn't be so cynical. I mean, there seems to be a lot of goodwill. The 1.5 degree thing, as I understand it, is an aspiration. So it's not.
Should.
Yeah, it's not that they have agreed to go for 1.5 degrees. The 2 degrees is the binding target. The 1.5 is the aspiration that we're trying to move towards. And it's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of upset. I mean, there's a lot of talk that the last time that they all got together, it was a complete farce. And the fact that they've actually managed to get some kind of agreement in principle is quite impressive, really.
Yeah.
And it seems sort of fairly concrete. This is what's going to happen. It's yet to be. I don't know. It's quite a large document that they put out. I think it's about 55 pages. I haven't gone through it all yet. Well, I'm kind of interested to see what penalties are in place for countries that do not stick to the agreement. That's the real key. That actually, if you don't do what you're agreeing to do, that there are suitable punishments put in place.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens, isn't it? As soon as something goes slightly pear-shaped, the economy takes a nosedive. People start looking at things that they don't particularly want to do, and it always seems to be environmental stuff that goes by the wayside, as per this government.
Yeah. There you go. Forgot. Well, there's a guy that keeps leaving and coming back. What's his name?
Oh, Dan Hodges.
Yeah, we've got Dan Hodges. He's left the Labour Party.
Again.
He left the Labour Party in 2013.
Yeah.
He's left again. I'm so disgusted in my Telegraph column. But this is the question: is he just a plant? If he's a Tory. He writes for the Telegraph and the Spectator.
Careful with the bullying there, Kev.
I'm bullying him.
You called him a Tory. I mean, just because the guy works for the Telegraph and seems to, as you say, is roughly 100% anti-Labour and never ever criticises the government and
hates Corbyn with a passion
and hated Ed Miliband just as much. Spent the entire last term running down Ed Miliband. That doesn't mean he's a Tory, Kev.
Yeah, what would that mean? He's a Tory? But I mean, it's an interesting question. I think genuinely, even with that, it's an interesting thing to talk about. It doesn't mean it's true. We don't know, but it is an interesting thing to talk about. That what is he doing? Why is he doing it?
I don't even know who he is. I don't understand why his opinion is important to the point that he can write opinion pieces on politics. I think he's from a politician's family, but he's never been a politician.
I think it's only because it was his mother.
But he's a journalist. I find that bizarre. I don't find his. Well, I don't really want to go into his writing, but he definitely has a beef with the Labour Party. And yesterday he resigned again, and he was widely mocked.
Yeah, that's the thing again. That the internet is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because without it, the papers wouldn't mock him.
No.
They just report, he's quit because of Corbyn.
Yeah.
Terrible
Jeremy Corbyn.
Everyone on the internet just makes fun of him. The media, they can't actually ignore it now because too many people know what's happening. Yeah.
The European thing's quite a bit. I think the final there's a meeting tomorrow or a summit tomorrow where they're going to talk. But
isn't it basically
there is no widespread agreement.
It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
I think everyone kind of said.
According to Donald Tusk, anyway. And there was another question this week at PMQs from the SNP about what the situation would be if the UK voted to leave Europe but Scotland voted to stay in. So there I think we're actually starting to see chickens come home to roost. So Cameron sort of poked the union issue with the Scots, keeps poking at it, and he used it for cheap political gain at the end of the last referendum, and I think it's starting to come a little bit unstuck. It's starting to come back and bite him in the you-know-what, because he wouldn't want the union to split. He doesn't want that responsibility on his head, as much as he doesn't want the responsibility for us coming out of Europe on his head.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. I mean, you think about it, traditionally Cameron is a real pro-Europhile. That's what traditionally what it's been. But of course now he's saying, well, I don't like this now. I'm not very sure about this now, because he doesn't really believe anything, does he? It's all just like everything else. If I don't get what I want, I'm going. Well, go then.
Oh,
I will then. Go then. I'm gone. Go then.
The Dan Hodges of Europe will quit then. We'll go. Well, he's in a really difficult position because he's got this sort of things that he wants to achieve, which when he set out there was all sorts of things he wanted. He wanted power back in, he wanted veto back into British Parliament and member countries to be able to do this and control over this, and all that's gone by the wayside. Now it's all on this 4-year benefit ban. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
That's the only thing he's got. It's going to curb migration.
It's those voters. He's after. That's all it's about.
Although when MPs are pressed on, where is a single credible economic piece of research that shows that this will have anything other than a marginal effect on migration. He can't come up with anything. That's his answer to the migration issue. But he's trying to attempt this when Merkel, I don't know if you heard yesterday, she got a 10-minute standing ovation about because Germany have taken in a lot of refugees from Syria and the Middle East, Middle East conflict. And there's a lot of pressure on her to start turning away and closing down borders. But she got a 10-minute standing ovation saying that she's going to, Germany's strong, Germany's going to deal with this, and she's not going to flinch.
That's brilliant.
David Cameron is not,
Which way is the
how
wind
does
blowing?
David Cameron fit into that? Yeah, he's a little squabble with Europe to satisfy his backbenchers. They must look at him and think,
What a wuss.
why are we wasting our time on this?
It's only through circumstance he is where he is,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's just, that obviously he followed the end of a long run by the other party. It's just natural that they'll lose. And there was the big economic collapse at the right time, exactly 2 years before his election. All that stuff,
I mean, he's been very lucky up until now, but as we start to see things unfold in the NHS, did you hear the news last night that it was a Huffington Post exclusive? I'm getting really tired of Huffington Post. Doesn't a lot of actual news on there, but it was a break that, and interestingly, hospitals are now having to borrow money from the government to pay wages, and they're paying interest on that.
I know, yeah.
The squeeze on the NHS is truly dire.
Yeah, it's frightening.
And then you hear this story of doctors aren't treating seriously ill patients very well. They've got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, that's the bigger story than the other one.
Yeah. Weird, strange.
Should we talk about Winterval? I think this is the Christmas special, so we should talk about Winterval. Mid-90s, I think it's 1996 it actually starts at, but I think it's the hysteria started about 1998. What happened was there was a Birmingham council where they had all these things going on. They've got the German market, and they've got Christmas, and they've got Halloween, and they've got children in need, and they've got all these things happening, and maybe through incompetence in that he couldn't organise them all separately, or there just wasn't the funding to organise them all separately. He thought, well, let's have this thing called Winterval, and it's all these things. So it was the Birmingham Mail who originally fabricated the story that this Labour councillor wants to ban Christmas, and he's renamed Christmas, blah, 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 blah. And it just caught on, and the Daily Mail went big on it. Melanie Phillips particularly went big on it, as they're trying to ban Christmas. Obviously, the Liberals want to rename it Winterval, and soon there will be no Christmas anywhere. Can't you see? There's no Christmas. It's all gone. It's obviously fiction, and yet it's interesting the mentality of it that they want to propagate it. They want to believe it because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to matter.
It seems to be particularly big thing in America. Fox News, every year.
Yeah, the war on Christmas.
The war on Christmas. It seems a very strange, especially in this country because we're a much more secular country. The religious aspect of Christmas is a lot more toned down.
But yeah,
compared to the States.
That's true. Yeah.
But we've still got that in places, that obsession, and it's more of a less of a Christian thing than more of an immigration thing. It's the marauding invaders ruining our traditions, and we're giving in to them, and we can't even wish people a Merry Christmas anymore.
To people who actually do wish you Merry Christmas, you stopping me from wishing you a Merry Christmas, even though you just wish me a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
It's just a bizarre mentality. Isn't it? But again, this is why I've kept the hat on. Is Melanie Phillips trolling? Is Melanie Phillips a false flag deliberately? She was a Liberal years ago, and then saw the light and switched right the way far in the other direction.
Well, there seems to be
picks up the most extreme view she can. She's in that position.
There's quite a few people like that. I mean, Peter Hitchens, who was a Trotskyist or whatever you want to call it, and now
That's true, but he was always
a conservative now.
He was a Trotskyist, but he was always authoritarian, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that you could argue. It's interesting how he's different from his brother as well. That's interesting.
I mean, I kind of get the sense that certain people, and I have a little bit of empathy for them. They're just contrarian by nature, so they enjoy going in there and finding the contrary and arguing the contrary position.
Yeah. Well, Melanie Phillips, probably the last time she was on Question Time, which was a while ago, pointing at the audience saying, "You are wrong. I'm telling you." So she's playing a part of the Mary Whitehouse type character, saying, "I'm the kind of thing. You can understand the appeal of that, can't you?
I mean, we've got to say Melanie Phillips no longer works for the Mail, and it seems she seems a lot less of an invasive figure on society. You don't see her as much. I mean, she's got a regular bit on the moral maze. I don't know if she still goes on that. She's definitely one of these people who have these tropes that keep banging on about.
Yeah, they have to take. There has to be a side, and it has to be in some way radical, or in some way that's the wrong word, isn't it? But in some way extreme.
Yeah.
And that's obviously enjoyable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Mehdi Hassan is an interesting character because apparently he once applied for a job at the Daily Mail.
Yeah, they because he was big on the Leveson thing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And it was released the letter he sent to the Mail, grovelling for a job, basically.
Yeah, saying how great they are. Yeah.
Well,
But was he doing the same thing? We don't know, do we?
Mehdi Hassan's quite a combative person. He's in America. He works in America now, doesn't he? I mean, it's interesting to have Mehdi Hassan's interesting because he's Muslim and he openly defends the Muslim position, which there isn't that much of.
Yeah, that's true. Not in mainstream media. Yeah, and you bring these Christmas stories up to present day. I mean, if you just Google it now, certainly today when I googled it, the first story was something about a child is banned from going to the Christmas party at school because his mother didn't book it. What? Well, she didn't book it. What? There's a deadline for booking. Why didn't she book it? Well, it's her fault, isn't it?
Yeah.
But she's gone to the press and said, and of course the press will pick up on it because it's a Winterful story.
Yeah.
And people will read it and saying, yes, they're banning Christmas. Those educators.
Christmas is under threat.
And there was another interesting story a few days ago where a school had cancelled the whole Christmas party because they decided if you do your homework, you can go to the Christmas party. Which sounds fair enough on the face of it. You think, well, okay, that's okay. And because of the ridiculous backlash, because they went to the media, they just cancelled the Christmas party completely. Christmas is cancelled, but there were 5-year-old kids. So really, the point that obviously a lot of right-wing places are reporting this, and they won't be saying this, but 5-year-old doing homework.
Yeah, that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, is mental, and that's where we've gone. And of course, the problem is that a lot of these sort of people who are attacking the school, they won't want to accept that the real situation we're in, where we've got this ridiculous target setting situation of children, young children, not young adults, being given targets and homework and being pushed so hard. What my kids, my daughter who's now 12, she was doing GCSE level when she was 10. It's so unnecessary. You don't need to push them that hard. It isn't working. It obviously isn't working. And then at the same time you'll get stories in, the stereotype is the Daily Mail, that kind of thing, saying, standards are so much lower. So their readership think, when in my day I was much better. When in fact that what they did was much easier than what these kids are having to go through. And I can see why the education fails people, not because they're not teaching them anything. Some kids will just buckle under the pressure. That's what's happening. That's what's really happening.
I mean, education, we're going into a big subject here, is quite a tricky thing to tackle because it is the key to social mobility to a certain extent.
Yes.
It's not a case of that if you do well at school and you go to a good university that you will necessarily succeed if you're from a poor background. But the fact is, if you don't do well at school, you will fail. Whereas if you're from a
knobby background,
you don't do particularly well, you'll still end up in a pretty decent job. But education is seen as key as to leveling the playing field, and it's definitely a strong component of it. So what do you do? The argument is go back to comprehensive schools. Is it comprehensive?
Grammar schools.
Grammar schools. Yeah. The argument is grammar schools.
This is a good question. It's one of the few times where I can't disagree with Nigel Farage. I'm trying, but I'm not sure. But it did occur to me that if we went to grammar school, we would be in a different position.
I agree with that, but there's an issue with it. I think my dad was told. My dad was the oldest child, and he was told in no uncertain terms that you cannot pass the 11 plus because you will not be going to grammar school, because he contributed to the income of the family. He had started with a paper round, then he had worked for the butcher shop and stuff like that. So
it's pulling away the ladder, isn't it? That's what it is.
Wow.
At age 11.
Yeah. Age 11, you're a write-off.
Glass ceiling at age 11.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy, but there has got to be, you would like some way for.
I mean, the word they use is aspiration, but they don't really mean it. That's just they just use it as rhetoric, really, don't they? But we still had aspiration. We were just really lazy.
Yeah. Oh well.
Never mind. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, so in 2016, we've got the EU referendum coming up, so that'll be interesting. So
That'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly still don't completely know what side I'm going to be on. Not completely.
Same, yeah.
Whereas a couple of years, maybe 3 years ago, it would have been definite stay in, and it's not there, which is interesting in
That is
itself.
interesting.
Have we been brainwashed?
I think that there comes a point where it becomes serious, where you actually look at the facts and nothing's clear. I think the main issue at the moment is that the out campaign hasn't been, the argument for leaving Europe hasn't been
presented,
properly presented. Although we've had it drip fed to us for years,
It's
30 years it must be now.
Through
We've
the
had
filter of nonsense.
straight bananas and all that. But it's
Yeah.
all nonsense, so when you sit down and think about it, actually, well, what is the truth of this situation? And both sides need to be presented. I fear we're not going to get that. We're going to get
It's just going to go.
Project Fear
crap.
2.0.
And the wrong side will win. Whatever the wrong side is, it'll be the wrong side that will win, because they'll lie. And I always say, if they've got a reasonable argument, why do they need to lie? Why did they need to make all that stuff about bananas? All those nonsense stories, none of them were true. Why? Why do they need to make them up if there's a reasonable argument? Unless we're just plebs and we don't understand their great minds.
Probably. So yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. And we'll see you in the new year, and there'll be some big news.
Yeah, for more disgusting, sneering, bitter, angry lefties who hate everything, who don't like
So
stuff.
full of bile.
Yeah, and
Marxist bile.
full of peace and love and understanding and tolerance and all those nasty things. Ah, we're monsters. See you in the new year.